This is the exact production-ready AI system that I built for a real estate coaching client that automates their Instagram DMs, qualifies their leads, sends them the right offer for them, and brings in a human into the conversation whenever necessary. And today I'm going to give you this entire build step by step. Let's go ahead and test this out. I'm going to run this message, and that is going to trigger this workflow right here. So we can see that we got a response from our agent saying, hey, I'm Atlas, the assistant here at Apex Growth Labs. We help founders and business owners grow faster with proven strategies. Are you looking to grow your business? And so let's see how this actually worked. I went into my executions, and this is the message that I just sent to our agent saying, hey, I came across your page. What exactly do you guys do? And it got passed into this N8N workflow, and this agent classified us as someone who's looking for education, whose readiness is unknown. It suggested a free training, and it created this next question for us. And after that, it sent over through a ManyChat API, it sent back the responses, and it broke up the responses so that it sounds more natural. Because when a human being is responding to a text message or a DM, they're sending multiple messages, they're not sending one long paragraph. And so that's what we have here. Now let's go ahead and test this with some more messages. Now let's go ahead and send this message saying, I want to learn how to build better systems for my coaching business. Do you have a program for that? So now we're showing some interest in some specific thing that we're trying to learn. Let's go ahead and see, or give this a second and then see how it responds. Great, so it just responded and it said, absolutely, we have a program designed to help coaching business owners build better systems, now it's asking to learn a little bit more about what we're looking for, learn a little bit more about our business. So let's go ahead and check what that looks like in N8N. We're gonna come over here to our past runs, this execution that just ran, and we're gonna see what this looks like. So we can see that it classified us as someone who's looking for structured learning, and that is the intent for intent B, and it suggested a specific program, and it asked the next question for us. And so you'll notice this last message, the agent classified the action as reply. It might not always be a reply. It could be a human handoff, and I'm going to show you what that looks like now. We're going to pass this in to explicitly get notified to the owner so that we can actually see what this human handoff looks like. So currently in our system prompt, we've trained this to run a human handoff, so to pass this to our sales rep. In the case that someone asks about specific pricing questions, they ask for something to be escalated, so they ask to speak to an owner immediately or to speak to someone immediately, then it's going to trigger that human handoff. So that's what we did here, and now we're going to see what this looks like. So we can see in that last execution of the message, so the message again that we sent was, let me speak to the owner right now. I want to know how much the specific pricing is for 6-month coaching. So it suggested the human handoff, and then it passed into that switch statement and went to the other path that sends the human handoff, and then it hands it off to us in ManyChat. And so within ManyChat, there's a workflow here that essentially assigns the conversation to the correct individual. So you can set this up to assign this to your sales representative or to yourself. Now, this system was originally built to integrate with Go High Level, but I've removed that for the purposes of this video because that was for my specific client. However, you can connect this to any CRM that you have, and you can also trigger some sort of a handoff or an automation from your CRM to notify the correct person to go ahead and respond to that individual as well. And you can pass in all the details of that conversation. And so whether the AI replies or whether it's a human handoff, we can run different steps into our CRM. So in this case, I have Go High Level just sitting right here, left it aside for now. You can connect HubSpot, you can connect any other CRM that you have that you're using right now. What I've actually also done in this workflow is created a webhook that gets called within the specific CRM. So in this case, it's coming from my client's Go High Level. And when my client changes a flag within a specific contact, it removes that human handoff part in Go High Level, and it essentially sends the conversation back to the AI for it to handle the rest of the flow. If someone's DMing our agent asking for a specific pricing question, the human comes in the loop, can answer that specific question, and then it can send the conversation back assigned to the AI as well. So we've integrated with that to assign the conversation directly back to the AI. And that's what we're doing here. We essentially just remove the human handoff flag, and then we update our lead state within our database that we have. What I've also done in this workflow is I've created the ability to pass the conversation back to the AI. So in this case, I just showed how to send the conversation to a human right? To hand it off to someone to answer specific pricing questions, or if someone asks for immediate help. But when that person is helped, when the questions are answered, and the human or the sales rep or the business owner wants to send this back to the AI to handle the rest of the flow, they can do that within their CRM. And then what we have here is we remove the human handoff flag, and then we update the lead. So the next time the lead asks a question or responds in any way, it will trigger this workflow again, and then it will go to the actual AI reply part of this flow rather than the human handoff part that doesn't actually send a response. So hope that makes sense. Essentially, this flow gets sent to a human for very specific circumstances and for specific guardrails, and we can set that and customize that for each business. But the business owner can also send this back to the AI whenever they're ready. So it's not a forever human flow for that conversation with that person. Okay, so this system requires a few different things to set up. First of all, we're going to be building this out in N8N. This is my recommended platform for building out AI agents. Now, we also have this tool called ManyChat. Now, ManyChat is a DM automation software that allows you to connect these types of AI agents and workflows to automate conversations with your leads. You can do this for Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, a few different options for your business. So we have N8N, we have ManyChat, we also have a database. So in our case, we're going to use Supabase, which is completely free to set up. It's very, very simple, and I'll show you how to set it up in this video, but we're going to need these three softwares. So we have ManyChat to bring in the conversation from Instagram. So when someone messages us on Instagram, that's going to come in through ManyChat. And then within ManyChat, we can create some initial workflows to send this to N8N, where we have our core logic, our routing, our connection to a CRM, our tracking to track all of this stuff. So all of that goes into N8N, but the basic stuff to bring that conversation and call the N8N workflow is happening within ManyChat. So I'll show you how to set that up as well. So once you have this set up, it's going to start looking something like this within your ManyChat that triggers an automation. It changes some custom fields, and then it runs particular rules as well. So all of that is just to trigger this N8N workflow and pass in the right pieces of the conversation in order to run this AI agent. And then within our N8N workflow, again, we're listening for the trigger that comes from ManyChat. So in this case, we have a webhook attached to our ManyChat that gets called within a ManyChat workflow. Within the N8N workflow, we have a database, right? So a database is essentially to store the structured data of that particular lead. So all of our chats will get stored in a particular table, and then we have the state of that conversation that kind of outlines some of the details that the AI agent pulls out from the conversation, and we can update that so that when a person comes back and messages again a month later, we have that context from their last conversation. So we know the things that they were talking about, we know what they were interested in. And so that's really helpful for us to have some sort of memory associated aside from just the simple memory that we have in this chat right here. So that's why we have Supabase over here. We also have Supabase because what we're gonna do, and I'll make a whole nother video about this, but we have a tracking dashboard to essentially track the number of AI replies, the number of handoffs, the number of bookings that were created from this. And so when you release this sort of an AI agent into your business, you want to know how it's doing. You want to know where it's falling short, and you want to know what kind of return on investment you're getting on this type of a setup. And so what we do for clients is we set up a dashboard that tracks all these key metrics for them so that they can look at this dashboard in real time to see, okay, how is this responding? And how is this AI agent actually helping my business? And so we have a few of these nodes here that record an AI reply and that track a lead handoff. And we have more that we've added in our actual production system for our client that actually track more events. And ultimately, this gets populated into a dashboard that can look something like this. Again, this is purely customizable for every single client depending on what their KPIs are, but we can track the number of AI replies, we can track the number of bookings, we can track the number of links that have been sent to our leads in conversations, we can track the handoffs, the human handoffs, we can track what type of booking. All this stuff is trackable, and so that's why we have Supabase taking in tracking events that is passed in from N8N, and then we're pulling from that database in order to populate a dashboard, right? So that you, as the owner of this AI agent, can see how this is actually performing. And so I'll show you how that's set up a little bit later in this video as well. So hopefully that makes sense. That was essentially a rundown of how this system works at a high level, right? End to end in all the different components of the system. Now we're going to get into the details and walk through this to explain how this works and how you can set this up as well. Keep in mind, I do have this entire setup, including all the ManyChat workflows, the N8N workflow, the system prompt, all of it is set up within a set of files in the link down below. So if you check out the link below this video, you will be able to get access to all of this. But if you'd like to build this out from scratch, you're welcome to do that as well and follow along in this video. So let's first start with ManyChat. ManyChat is the source of everything here. It's the source and it's the destination of our AI replies. So within our ManyChat, you're going to need to have a ManyChat Pro account, which is $15 a month. So I highly recommend you get onto that Pro account. You don't need the AI part of ManyChat. You don't need to upgrade to that level. You just need the Pro. And so within our ManyChat, we have these different workflows, right? Now, these workflows start here. So I'm going to go in order. This first workflow essentially has our default reply. So if someone sends us a DM on Instagram and no other workflow is triggered within our ManyChat already, this workflow is going to get triggered. And so when anyone DMs us, that's the default reply. Keep in mind, while I was testing this AI agent, and while you're testing this, I recommend you have this as the default, as the trigger, saying message contains some sort of a keyword. And then anytime you're sending a message to this AI agent, you'd want to just pass in that keyword so that if someone else is DMing you, and this is your business Instagram that you're talking about, you don't start sending them this AI agent replies while it's still being built. So I recommend while you're building it and testing it, I would have something like this with a keyword. Once you're ready to put it in production, you can change the trigger to user sends a DM as the default reply. And I'll show you how to change that really fast here. So when you go to channels and Instagram, you can see this default reply. And so if you see here, this is the name of that workflow that I just showed you, collect user messages. And so you can just select that workflow from a dropdown right in that menu. Then it'll automatically add this for you as the trigger being the default reply. So that is the trigger. What we have here is we have a few custom fields that we've created. Now these custom fields, you can go ahead and create them within the settings of this ManyChat workspace. And so if you're in your settings, you can go to fields. And so what we have here is we've created these exact fields. So it's AI answer 1 through 6. It's AI awaiting response, AI follow-up, AI user messages. That's really all that we have for this specific workflow. And so we have some of these custom fields and I'll show you how they are getting utilized. So the first thing we're doing is we're setting the awaiting response to no and the follow-up to no. What this means is that we are no longer waiting. The AI is not waiting for a particular response and the AI does not need to do a follow-up as of yet. This is only useful when the AI is trying to respond back after 24 hours. And so we don't need to worry about this for right now. In fact, you could actually just remove this node from the setup and let's keep this a little bit simpler for now. So after this trigger, when the AI user messages is unknown, what we're going to do is we're going to set this last text input, which is a field that gets populated automatically in ManyChat. This is a custom field that we've created, AI user messages. And what we're doing here, just put very simply, is if I send multiple messages, so saying, what does your business do? You might think that's very easy to respond to, but for an AI, it has to look at both messages. And so we can't just have it trigger anytime a user sends a message, hey, let's go trigger this agent, because then it's going to miss the second message and the third message. And so what we have here is we are going to continue to pull and add to the user's input. And that's what this action is doing here. We're adding to the user's input and we're adding it to this field called AI user messages, right? So if I pass 10 messages, it's going to collect all of that, run this action 9 or 10 times, and it's going to say, this is your current message and this is your last message that you have here. So it's going to keep pulling for the user messages. So I can send 10 different messages and the AI it'll compress it all together into the field of AI user messages. So hopefully that makes sense. That's the first workflow that we're going to run. And the outcome of this is AI user messages that is populated, right? That's all we care about for now, is that field is populated with all of the user messages that have been sent. Then it's just going to wait, right? We're just going to wait for a minute. And then what we're going to do is have this next workflow be triggered. And what this is is it's a date and time based trigger. So 1 minute after the user's last interaction with us on Instagram, if the AI user messages has some value, and we just populated that value, right, with the whole sequence of messages that the user has passed. If it has any value at all, trigger this workflow a minute after that last interaction. So what we're doing here is we're just doing some clearing of the last pass of this whole AI agent. So I wouldn't worry about this for now. We're just clearing some fields so that it's good for the next time. What we're really doing is we're running this webhook. So this external request for this webhook that we define right here in N8N. So this is actually our production URL. And so you can come here to the webhook path. Within N8N, you have this inbound webhook trigger. And so we have this production URL, and you can customize this, right? So when you create a new inbound webhook, you'll see a bunch of numbers here. I'd recommend just making this very simple for you to read and understand so that you know this is the ManyChat webhook URL. You can copy this. So you can change the path, then you can copy this, come over here, and then paste in that request URL, right? And once you do that, you can test a request. So I recommend you doing that at first, where you actually listen for a test event and then actually pass in that test request. So I highly recommend you walk through that process. And all I want to do is pass in the full contact data. I want to pass in everything that ManyChat has on this contact, and I will clean it up in N8N. That's just how I'm choosing to handle this. Essentially passes in everything it has on that contact, including stuff we don't really need. So you can clean this up if you'd like, but I'm happy just passing in everything. So that's the external request. That is really important to trigger our N8N workflow. And then after we've done that and we've passed in everything, then we clear the user messages for the next time around as well. So that is this workflow. Again, the key thing there is we've triggered this workflow, and that happened a minute after the user messaged. So now in the process, let's go ahead and talk about N8N, right? So now we've got this webhook that got us this information. I want to learn how to build better systems for my coaching business. You have a program for that. This is one of the test user messages that I was sending as I was DMing my AI agent account, the account that my AI agent is plugged into. So I had that user message, and now we see what that looks like. What I'm just doing here is I'm just setting some fields for later parts of the process. So I'm setting up what the lead key is, where it came from, all of this stuff. I'm just setting some of those components. And so I have a condition that just makes sure that the message text, what gets populated as message text in set fields, is not empty, right? So if it's empty, then we don't do anything, right? We stop the workflow, which is almost never going to happen because, as you know, we have in this workflow, we have the condition saying, as long as AI user messages has any value, then run this and pass in AI user messages. So we shouldn't ever get here. We've never actually gotten here, but it's just an extra conditional check, because if there's no user message, we don't want this to run. It's just going to cause problems. So we're filtering that out here, making sure that we have some sort of message. And then what we're doing here is we're getting a lead state. So we actually are running this SQL query to query our database. And so we are passing in our lead key as like our unique identifier. And so in this case, it's calling this specific table right here. So this has primary key of a lead key, and then it has some state that we kind of fill in all of our details of the conversation to say what their budget is, what their problem scope is, all of that stuff, all that information that's really important for the chatbot to have in mind. We are storing all that. So anyway, it looks up the lead key and then it gets all the information that's relevant. It pulls back the state, so it returns the state for us. And that's going to be critical for us moving forward. So what we've done here is we've ran a code node, like we've actually passed in some JavaScript code to create and initiate all of these variables associated with our lead. And so we just have this new lead that came in to our database, right? And we have now created all of these other fields to pass into the state, right? So we're setting the state here in this code node, and then we are updating the state in this next node, right? So these Postgres nodes connect directly to our Supabase database, right? So we've done a step here to create a credential to connect specifically to our database here. And so we've just updated the state here. Again, that's just some database work. Now we check if the handoff is equal to true or false, because if human handoff is equal to true, then we don't need to pass it into this flow, right? Then we can just let it go, because at that point, the human already been notified, right? This flow has already run in a previous chat. And so we don't need to do anything here. This false node isn't connected to anything on purpose, right? But if handoff is false, which is really what this is about, If handoff is false, then we continue, because then we need to reply to this agent, right? So what we've done here is we split up the details about the business into 2 separate nodes. We've set it up this way so that it's easy for us to update this information without messing with this core AI agent node. So the business could change what they're offering. It could change how they talk about their products or their programs, but we want to leave that separate. So what we've done here is we've passed in a string that's titled business facts, and we had this document up and we've passed in our business information. Now, again, this is not my actual client's business information. I've created this just for the purposes of this video. So this is Apex Growth Labs. This is an AI assistant. Atlas is going to be handling these DMs for this business. These are our ideal clients. These are not a good fit. These are some of the offers that we have. And so it outlines some of the things that we offer as a business. It gives information on who is a good fit for that offer and who is not a good fit for that offer. That's really helpful in the conversation where it's actually qualifying the lead to ask, hey, what are you interested in? What are your goals? What are your pain points? What are you looking for? What's your budget? All of these things are important. And so we actually want to include the links here as well, which I don't have in this video, but we want to include the actual links to send them to in order for them to book with us, in order for them to buy something. All of that can be sent here. And then we have some handoff rules and some compliance rules as well. Then we have our AI agent, which is really the core logic of this whole thing, right? So it reiterates some of the core, things of what the jobs to be done are for this node. And the goal is for it to pass and create an output that looks like this, very structured output, right? So what is the next action? Is it to reply? Is it to hand off? Or is it to do nothing? That's also an option. If someone's sending us a spam message, we don't want to do anything. What is the primary intent, right? So we've classified 5 or 6 different intents. So the intent could be A, if they're exploring and learning. The intent could be B, if they want structured education or training. It could be C, if they have a specific problem or question. It could be D, if they want one-on-one help. E, if they're ready to talk or book now. F, if they want content or knowledge only, then we send them like our YouTube link or something. U, if they're undecided or if they don't have enough info. So all of that those are the different intents. These are the different actions that it could take. It could reply. It could hand off to a human being. Why would it hand off? Either pricing questions, high urgency, emotional sensitive topics, or it could do nothing, right? So if it's a spam message, if it's an emoji only message, if someone messages us 3 laughing emojis, we don't need to reply in that case. And then it decides which route to take. Route essentially means which offer to lean towards in the conversation, right? What would be best for that user out of what we offer already? So is it the intent, like for the intent A, we can route them towards education and we have a free training. For intent B, we have a structured learning, which is kind of a medium commitment, etc. So we have all of these different things depending on what they're interested in, right? So all that is really important. And I highly recommend you download this and read through this so you understand what a good system prompt looks like. We've done a lot of testing on this particular prompt. A side note to this is what I recommend in any sort of production ready AI system is to run this AI agent step through some rigorous testing, and N8N actually supports that. So if you test the reliability, you can use this functionality called evals or evaluations, and you can essentially create your own test cases, and then you can evaluate this AI agent against the responses of those test cases. So as an example, if I want to know when this agent is going to reply versus hand off, or suggest a one-on-one coaching versus a group coaching, I can set up test cases for each option or for many of those options, and then I can have it run through all of those test cases in one click and then evaluate the results. And then I can adjust the prompts in order to get better output, in order to get consistent, high quality outputs from this AI agent. And that's really critical, especially for us, because I've designed this AI agent in a way to give classifications on what the user wants in order to make it a very binary decision on whether this AI agent is performing well or not. It correctly recommends reply or handoff. That's a very clear binary yes or no. So it's very easy for me to test this and to test the efficacy of this agent. And we only deploy things for clients that are 95% or above in all of these test cases. So we've tested all of these different classifiers against a variety of test cases. I think we ran like 50 test cases or more for this particular client. And then it differs depending on how complex the business is. So I will make another video about how to test and how to use evaluations, but I recommend that you play with that, you learn about it, you can read the evaluations documentation here. You can watch this video. I'll make another video about this soon as well. So that's the AI agent step. We have our structured output parser. So we've defined our output very explicitly to make it very easy, right? So each one of these fields, we give all of the possible outputs of that field. So we give reply, handoff, or no op, right? No operation. We give all of the possible intents, all of the possible routes. Anyway, so we have that structured output parser. Then after this AI agent step, we have a check to determine whether there was a link sent in that message or not. In this conversation, the AI agent will ask, I think this is a good fit for you. Would you like me to send the link to book? And if the user says yes, then it will send the link in the next message. So at some point in the conversation, there might be a link sent. We want to know if there's a link sent and what link it was, primarily for our tracking purposes, right? So that we can build some sort of a dashboard like this for ourselves to understand what are people actually interested in or what are they booking. So we can check if there is a link. We just wrote some code to check if there's a link here and what is the link. In this case, it's false. And we will use that later on in this flow. Now we have this key switch statement that just checks what the action is. If the action is reply, handoff, or no op. If it's reply, it will go up on this flow. If it's handoff, it will go to this flow to handoff. And if it's no op, you see that it's connected to nothing because we want to end it. We don't need to do anything if it classifies it as no operation needed. Now there's a key component to this where there's another ManyChat flow that we're going to call right here very soon. What we're doing here first is we are taking the entire AI response and we are breaking it up into different messages. And so if you remember at the start of this video, I talked about how I can send multiple messages and the AI will respond to multiple messages. However, we also have this set up so that the AI responds with multiple messages so that it's much more human-like. And the way that we do that, we can't just call one chat model and say, okay, give 6 different responses. We have to run it through a different ManyChat workflow. So first we do actually call, let me open up this prompt. So we call OpenAI real fast and we say, you're a skilled content formatter. Your task is to take a block of conversational text and to split it up into natural sounding Instagram style responses in 1 to 6 short messages. So it takes in the input from this AI agent step. Like this is all of the reply text. It takes all of that and it breaks it up into 6 different short messages so that it sounds more human-like. It actually looks like a human is responding. So I think that's a really, really core step in the quality of this AI system. Let me go ahead and publish so that there's no error anymore. So once that is done, it breaks it up into a few different pieces. Then it sets the AI answers. And so all we're doing is we're calling on a specific workflow in N8N to run, right? So in this case, we are first setting the custom fields in N8N. Now, these custom fields are AI answers 1 through 6. So we've called this API URL. As a side note that's important here, you have to go to this link, api.manychat.com/swagger. I don't know why they named it Swagger, but this is where all of the API documentation is for ManyChat, right? So in this case, we are using send custom fields. So set custom fields. So this is the URL that we're using, and this is the example fields that we're sending as well. So we're doing set custom fields. We're sending this body, we're sending the subscriber ID. So for this particular person, we are sending these messages, right? And so essentially the message model, we've just broken it up so that it sends the right responses. So you can see what this looks like here where it says AI answer 1 is going to be equal to, absolutely, we have a step-by-step program designed to help coaching business owners build better systems and streamline their operations. That's AI answer 1. AI answer 2 is, can you share a bit about what kind of client systems you want to improve, most like onboarding, a delivery, or something else. So that is AI answer 2. So you can see what this looks like. And so you can tell what that's going to end up being, where AI answer 1 has and AI answer 2 are filled with some sort of value there. So that is taken care of at this step. Now that we have the custom field set up, we're going to use this API documentation to call this other API to send the flow back to ManyChat. And within ManyChat, then we can reply back to this lead, right? So we don't need a trigger for this workflow. What we're actually doing is we're calling this workflow within our end-to-end workflow. So we are essentially just passing in the specific contact subscriber ID and the name of the flow. So this flow, if you look here, 8235581, that is here, 8235581. So we are just passing in, and we are calling this particular ManyChat workflow to get started. Now in this workflow, we just check, hey, does AI answer 1 have any value? If so, send the value. Does AI answer 2 have any value? Send the value. Does AI answer 3 have any value? Send the value. You notice we're waiting 3 seconds for each one just to make it a little bit more human-like. So it's not sending 6 at a time, right? It's sending 1, 1, 1. So it's just a little bit more natural in terms of a text. Now that we're doing that, we have the AI responding to the lead. Now, you might think that that is it, right? Once a user comes in, sends a message, we pass it into N8N. N8N, we do some stuff. We pass it back to ManyChat. ManyChat sends the replies. Great. Now, what we have a few other things that we're doing here, is that we're updating the lead state based on what how the AI classified this person, right? So if they say handoff is required, we'll update that. If they say conversation is active, we'll update that. So we're updating it with the key information about that lead. And then we're also recording that, hey, the AI just replied to this particular person, and this is what the reply was about. And so we have these tracking events that come in that are populating a dashboard that looks kind of like this. What we would also do here in a production workflow is to pass this into our CRM. And so that would just be connected here. You can connect this into any other CRM if you have it. And then we push that into, in this case, Go High Level, but it could be to any CRM. I'm just going to leave that part out of this video because it's very unique to your business. And this is primarily just focused on the AI agent part of this, not as so much the CRM update. But that is what we do here. That is the logical next step to add in here. So that is the entire system end to end. I will go over the testing and the dashboard and all of these things in future videos, in separate videos, so that they're a little bit more concise. I don't want to make this video too long, but I will have all these resources available in the link below, so you can go ahead and download this. Hopefully this was enough to get you thinking about how to actually build these systems in production for your business. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video.